Alright, greetings and welcome back, gentles and ladiesmen, to episode 2 of Exo Plays Toy Story 2 Year of the Dragon, or whatever the fuck it's called. Okay. Right off the bat, we're gonna go talk to Ham here.
Well done, Buzzy Boy! Here's your Pizza Planet token!
What do you guys think of my John Ratzenberger? He has quite the voice, doesn't he? So all we have left is one of the army guys and the boss at the top of the trees. And once again, you can always talk to Rex if you need hints on where to go next. So last time I sort of briefly touched on why it is. By the way, pull down that rope. It's a nice shortcut back up to this part, which can be handy if you fall off and have to climb back up again. Yeah, like right now. You gotta love this. Oh no, that rope's not actually 2D, it's 3D. That's pretty neat. I was totally expecting them to just do like a 2D texture, but no, they actually took time to model a rope. It's basically just a big cylinder with like 4 sides, but I'll take it. I'll take it, it's better than nothing. That unfortunately is worse than nothing. By the way, what do you guys think of that background? It's a classic N64 background where it's basically just rendering a flat image. Like when you play the Spyro games on PlayStation, because I can't seem to stop talking about them, even though I've talked about them at length for hours at this point, on this channel even. That game has, you know, like an actual 3D skybox in it. All 3 of them do. This game, like most other N64 games, just renders like a flat image on the background. You know, like a 2D game does. Okay, seriously, this is ridiculous. Usually I can get through this platforming section like it ain't no thing, but I guess the LP curse is out to get me tonight, folks. Oy vey. So some of you might be wondering, and I got partially into this question last time, why it is that I'm playing the N64 version of this game. Well, normally, I'd say if you haven't played this game before, and you know, there are 4 versions, I'd recommend the PlayStation version the most. It's the best by default, almost, because it gets the most things right and the least things wrong. It's not the perfect ideal version of Toy Story 2, in my opinion. Like, if it had the sound effects from this version, the cutscenes from this version, then it would be the best. But unfortunately, it doesn't. But we'll have plenty of time to get into all of that. So there are 4 versions of Toy Story 2. So we'll start with the PC version. Think of this as an amateur remake or re-break type discussion we're doing right now. Alright, I finally made it, Jesus Christ. So basically, the PC version you'd think would be the best because, you know, you can up-res it to HD and all that stuff, and you can run it at high frame rates on your new PC. How the fuck did I manage to do that? I swear, the LP curse is a cruel mistress, folks. I literally played this level earlier today and got through this platforming section in 1 try. So, I don't know what's going on, folks. PC version, you'd think it would be the best, but unfortunately it is optimized for Windows 98 or, you know, some ancient version of Windows that isn't fully supported anymore. And lo and behold, it has a lovely glitch on it, where if your computer has more than 2 gigabytes of RAM, then you can't play the game. I don't know why. Maybe it was supposed to be like trying to keep the computer from grabbing for more RAM than was conceivably available back in 1999. I don't know, but for some reason the game won't work if you have more than 2 gigs of RAM. So you can get the special patch that will fix it, and a special software wrapper that basically, you know, takes the game instructions and converts it to a language that, you know, newer versions of Windows can understand. But even when you do that, the game has lots of clipping issues, lots of performance issues, doesn't work super terribly well. I mean, come on with this shit game. It's really starting to piss me off is what it is. Oh, and I forgot to turn on my timer evidently, so we'll set it for 21 minutes or whatever. Could've swore I turned it on, but evidently not. Alright, finally, thank fucking God. Alright, so we don't actually need to be collecting coins anymore, but, you know, it's my collectathon OCD going off. Ha ha ha! Defeat the Zurg kite to get a token! So Zurg kite is the easiest boss of all time. You basically wait for him to stop spinning, then you aim at him and shoot him with your green laser and he'll take off 1/3 of his health. So all we have to do is wait for him to stop moving again and then shoot him again, he's dead. If you ask me, the climb up to him is harder than the boss itself, but, you know, whatever. I'm pretty sure that's it, but we'll go... Oh, no, we gotta go bring our army guys back. Thank goodness I didn't... You know... Man, that draw distance, that mip mapping, like, you can see in the distance how, like, the quality of the texture changes about, you know, a few feet in front of me. That's mip mapping. Basically what it's doing is it's swapping to a lower res version of the texture. Spyro does it too. Because I can't go apart without referencing Spyro, evidently. Great job looking the troops, Ranger! Here's your Pizza Planet token. And that should be everything, but we'll go chat with Rex just to make sure, because I don't feel like coming back later. The loading screens are kind of long. So, PC version, performance issues and all that. And on top of it, one of the bosses, who may or may not be Emperor Zurg, who may or may not be in this game, is unplayable in the PC version. Like, they made it so that whenever you attack him, he flies away.
Wow, you got all the tokens.
So I guess we're all set to leave. So we'll go do that real quick. So, Emperor Zurg, you try to fight him, you have to use your spin move because the lasers deflect. But whenever you try to spin him, in the PC version, he flies away, which means that he is unbeatable. So it's basically a dead game, so yeah, don't bother with the PC version, it's a piece of crap. You can hardly get it to work on newer hardware, and even when you do, it doesn't work properly all the way. So yeah, don't bother with that shite. And thank goodness we don't have to come back to that level later, we're done, we can move on. So... yeah, that's where it goes with that. We have our first world boss. It has actually a very similar structure to Wario World on the GameCube, which I have on the brain because I may have just recorded it for Unversecast. You can look, that's another thing you can look forward to, folks. Alrighty. So this boss is really easy, and by the way, the N64 version actually remembers to play the boss theme for this guy. I swear in the PlayStation version, if I remember correctly, even though this song is on the disc, instead it plays the boss theme for Slime Time, and I don't know why. I think the Dreamcast version does that too. So, I don't know. So at least this version fixed that. You have the actual boss theme playing here. And of course, if I'm wrong, don't crucify me. I don't intentionally try to mislead people. Sometimes I'm just wrong, that's just how it is. But I digress. All you have to do is stay in first-person mode, wait till he comes in range, he'll make a bombing run straight at you, and then shoot a charged laser shot at him, and he's done like dinner. That's all it takes. Looks like one more hit ought to do it. The world bosses do have a little bit more health to them. They're a bit beefier than the standard bosses you find in levels. And yeah, that's it. We beat them. They can move on. And we get a nice boss defeated and no terrible FMVs. So that's another point for the N64 version. Point against the N64 version, however, is it requires an N64 memory card. Basically, you plug them into the bottom of your controller. I have one from when I was a kid, so I'm all set, but you know, it's like you play any other N64 game, like Zelda games or Mario 64, and the save battery's just on the cart, you know? For some reason, Toy Story 2, Quest 64, and the best game of all time, War Gods on N64, require the N64 memory card to save data. Thankfully I have one so I could play the game, but you know, that might be a barrier to you potentially playing the N64 version of this title. Meanwhile, Woody is trapped inside Al's penthouse apartment. He is greeted by 3 other Western toys, Jessie, a rootin' tootin' cowgirl, Bullseye, Woody's faithful horse, and a wise old prospector, still in his box. And that's all the information we get for the time being. So, I got into this just a bit earlier, but one thing I really like about the N64 version is that there are no FMVs, because the FMVs in the other versions are terrible. I don't really understand why anybody would want that instead of the slideshow approach. Ideally, it would be like, oh, here's the cutscene from the movie that the level is based on. Only problem is, I swear they put the most random movie clips they could find. Like, they kind of have to do, like, when you take them out of context from the movie, they don't really work very well in the context of the game. Like the FMV that plays before the first level literally starts from Buzz saying, "Oh no, he's stealing Woody!" And they just play the whole scene, and it's redubbed, and it's in terrible 240p quality, even on the Dreamcast and PC. It's in like the worst compression quality you could possibly imagine. It looks absolutely god-awful. Like, I'm the only one who's gonna care about that, obviously, but still. Hey, look, it's Jim Varney. By the way, that's Ernest, right? So Ernest voiced Slinky in the movies.
Ah, Buzz, if you could find 5 missing wrenches and bring them to me in time, I will give you a Pizza Planet token.
Hey, fuck off. I'm trying to move here. So this is actually harder than it sounds because of the draw distance, which is a consistent problem in every version of this game, mind you. I've played them all, because I'm a Toy Story 2 nut, evidently. But I don't know, I feel like the draw distance is better in this version than it is on Dreamcast. Like, the Dreamcast, you'd be surprised. It's a more powerful console, but holy shit, the technical aspects of that game are all kinds of off. Like, the analog stick doesn't even work in the Dreamcast version. In the Dreamcast version, the analog stick only lets you move diagonally for some reason. You have to use the D-pad to play, which is not a problem in any other version of the game. Like, you play it on PlayStation, you got a DualShock controller, you're all good to go. You play it on N64, well, that's got an analog stick, so that's fine. For some reason, they couldn't get the analog stick to work on the Dreamcast. That's another reason why that version fucking sucks. Another version being is, I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but the Dreamcast version has an issue with the save data. Like, you're trying to save your game, right? Usually, in any other game ever made, you can like save over an old save file and just keep the same slot, right? Not in the Dreamcast version of Toy Story 2. You are forced to make a new save file every time you save. I don't know why, but they force you to do that. So some of you, you know, obviously the PC version has all those problems. That's why we're not playing that one. So why not the Dreamcast version? Well, that's the problem, that the game has so many performance issues. The memory cards, the save system barely functions, which is baffling because the PlayStation and N64 versions of the game don't have that problem. Even this one, where you need a fucking memory pack to save, doesn't have that issue. When you save over the old file, no problem. We're going after the little tykes. Those are the collectibles for the stage. We have my favorite green laser power-up that has that amazing sound effect on it. We have that all ready to go. So we can kill these enemies like it ain't no thing. This is one of my favorite levels in the game, by the way. I love the music, and I like the platforming set piece in the center. Once again, like I said before, I love how this game makes you feel like you are a toy in these real-life environments, and you get to platform around with them, you know, in toy proportion. It's fun. So the Dreamcast version has all those problems I mentioned, and it has similar performance issues to the PC one as well. So, like, I think you could still beat Zurg, but, you know, still. It's not the ideal version, and I was still considering showing it off, since most people probably haven't on the internet, and I thought it would be, you know, something different for people if they've already seen people play this game before. But, you know, it ended up not working out because the VGA cables I have for my Dreamcast are evidently not of the best quality. They have shit shielding on them, which means that the Luma and Chroma wires on the inside and the sync wires are essentially, the signals are conflicting with each other, which is distorting the visuals. And so what I basically need to do is go buy this special box from these guys who make them custom in Turkey, and they're called the Bihar Bros or something like that. And they make these Hanzo and Toro boxes, and you gotta go buy one of those boxes, and then basically the box plugs into the Dreamcast, and then you plug a VG cable into the corresponding input on the thing. By the way, this puzzle's pretty simple. All you gotta do is, you know, fill it up with the corresponding color, mix them correctly, and then drag them to the spot underneath the corresponding color, and then when you get them all, you get a Pizza Planet token. So we'll get green next. This is a pretty cool puzzle, but I have to say, this is pretty creative. Like, considering that this is a licensed game, they could have put whatever they wanted in it and just shoved it out. Clearly, Traveler's Tales cared about what they were making. But I digress. You know, Traveler's Tales did go on to do some pretty high budget, or, you know, high profile games like Crash Bandicoot 4 Wrath of Cortex and Crash to Insanity. They have been the masterminds behind the Lego games for the longest time. Traveler's Tales is still doing stuff today. So yeah, and it's not hard to see why. Clearly, they have a knack for game design. I mean, they don't make the greatest games ever, but compared to any other, you know, basically third-party terrible tie-in game I've ever played, Toy Story 2 is a frickin' masterpiece. So we have our Rexes over here, I think. Yeah, that lovely draw distance poppin'. And what's his face? Mr. Potato Head is here, but we don't have the part he needs yet, so we weren't gonna bother with him yet. So Dreamcast version has all sorts of problems. The PlayStation version's obviously probably the next one most people are gonna go for. And the PlayStation version is, like I said, probably the best by default. You've got Red Book audio quality sound. You have the terrible FMVs that I hate, but that's, you know, evidently lots of people see that as positive. And my problem with the FMVs is that they're distracting, first and foremost. They don't really convey the story all that well, because they lack the context of the film itself to really, you know, explain what's going on. Like, in this game, for example, there's a part in the movie Toy Story 2 where Buzz gets attacked by another Buzz Lightyear figure who has the special anti-gravity belt from the, you know, the video game flashback kind of sequence at the beginning of the movie. Buzz tries to take the belt, and then the other Buzz captures him and takes his place. And then that's like a, you know, a big plot point in the middle of the film. They show that clip from the movie in the game, but immediately after that scene is over, after that cutscene is over, you transition to like the elevator level, elevator hop, and you're playing as the real Buzz. So it's like, why did they put that clip in the game if that doesn't happen in the story of the game? That's what I'm talking about. The FMVs they're distracting at best, and, you know, just don't make any sense at worst. And so I much prefer the little slideshow approach that the N64 has going on, where it just, like, basically shows you the relevant stills from the film and then explains through text what's going on in the story. And it works just fine, and it's faster. You know, I prefer that, but that's just me. So the PlayStation version has Red Book audio. It doesn't have texture filtering in it like the Dreamcast and any other version of the game does. Like any other PlayStation game, every texture is just, you know, nearest neighbor with some dithering flopped over it with the G shaders and whatnot. So obviously you're gonna get better looking textures on the N64 and on the Dreamcast and the PC. But the PlayStation version has functional analog, unlike the Dreamcast version. The visuals look fine, and I do like my sharp, you know, my sharp image, if nothing else. And the game, you know, that's pretty much it. It just has much better performance than the other two versions we've talked about so far. And, you know, most people seem to like the look of PlayStation games more than N64 nowadays anyway, so, you know, PlayStation version is a perfectly fine way to play it, but I don't like the FMVs, and it does have the a much better frame rate than this version, I do have to say. The frame rate, like in the N64 version, like any other N64 game, is really inconsistent. But I don't know, there is something about the N64 frame rate that is kind of charming. That's probably the nostalgia talking, but whatever. So here we have the boss. Defeat the jackhammer boss to get a Pizza Planet token. I hope you have the disc launcher. Unfortunately, we do not have the disc launcher, so we're gonna have to come back to this boss later after we grab Mr. Potato Head's ear, which we do have, apparently. Before we do, there's something we can do while we're up at the top of this building to be. And by the way, this platforming section is one of my favorites in video game history. There's just something about climbing up an incomplete building that's, you know, in the middle of being constructed that I find really satisfying. And it was one of my favorite, you know, gaming moments as a kid. Anyways, we have coin and an extra life up here. Not that lives matter in this game. Yeah, I was almost gonna make a tasteless joke, but I decided against it, so you're welcome.
Wow, thanks, Buzz! In return for helping me find my eye, I will let you use the disc launcher. It's sure to help you defeat the toughest enemies.
So we're gonna need the disc launcher to defeat that boss, but now the disc launcher, they're basically like homing shots. They are pretty useful on standard enemies, and they will kill enemies that are only vulnerable to Buzz's spin, so you can take them out from a distance that way. Before we climb back up the building, and we do have shortcuts for that, by the way. Much like Spyro, this game does not waste your time. It has shortcuts. So Ham is up over there on that weird little trailer thing. I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. It looks like an air compressor, maybe? That is some strange attention to detail, but N64 version, obviously it does not have Red Book audio, as you'd expect, because the game doesn't have CDs, so it can't store, you know, pre-rendered waves, essentially. Wave files.
Well done, boys! Here's your Pizza Planet token.
And we'll keep on playing because we still gotta fight the boss. N64 version has texture filtering. It has, you know, filtering on the game image itself, because the N64's has its lovely quote-unquote anti-aliasing, where it just smears everything out. But thankfully on the OSSC, it actually looks pretty good, even with the, you know, the extra interpolated pixels. Like, it renders a 320 by 240 frame, but it basically uses bilinear filtering frame by frame to stretch it out to 480 by 320, or 480 by 240 rather. So there are extra interpolated pixels being added to the raw game image to make it look smoother, and it does work, and it still looks pretty sharp. So that's what I was kind of wrestling with whether to just do the 320 by 240 with the OSSC and sample it that way and get the nice sharp image. But I don't know, something about it doesn't look right to me, even though I love my sharp pixels, my sharp perfect pixels. You know, I'm sure Metropolis Zone is laughing his arse off, but he's not watching this right now. He's probably too busy, you know, he's probably too busy being popular with the ladies, is what I was gonna say. Cause, you know, not everybody can be popular with the ladies like Metropolis Zone. Oh, he could shoot at you. Okay. Looks like we get to climb back up. And like I said, there's this little shortcut elevator here. So, no Red Book audio, but thankfully, I find not every track in the game turned out super great, but, you know, the Construction Yard theme song sounds pretty good on N64. It's like Blythe Joustra, that's the name of the composer duo who worked on this game, and Mickey Mania, and Toy Story 1, and Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex. Sorry about that. So Blythe Joustra, they composed a pretty damn good soundtrack for Toy Story 2. My friend King K once said it was better than Banjo-Kazooie, and honestly, I'm inclined to agree. I think it's better than Banjo-Kazooie. Banjo-Kazooie has a pretty damn good soundtrack as well, but I don't know. I personally, I find myself listening to the Toy Story 2 video game soundtrack all the time. Like I'll be writing a script for a review or something. I'm listening to the Toy Story 2 soundtrack. I'm studying for my midterms. I'm listening to the Toy Story 2 soundtrack. I'm just hanging around. I'm listening to the Toy Story 2 soundtrack. I listen to it in the car. I listen to it all the time. It's a great soundtrack, honestly. I mean, it's not the greatest video game soundtrack of all time, but it's up there. It's up there. Surprisingly, like Blythe Joustra, they're pretty good composers, I must say. We'll try going over here, and then maybe that bastard will leave us alone. Guess he's only vulnerable sporadically. Like I said, you don't really have to worry about your health. Like, you have to worry about more is him knocking you off. It's like a dang old Wario Land 2 or 3 boss. Alright, so we'll go back over here, we'll target him from a distance. I'll let him have it. I'd very much not like to get knocked. By the way, I like the texture on his face. It looks good. For some reason, this boss is reminding me of the Jack-in-the-Box boss from Donkey Kong 64. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because you're balanced on these platforms or whatever. It's not really like that boss at all. But, you know, regardless. And this guy just doesn't want to die. We'll beat the boss and we'll call it apart, why don't we? I'll just pause our timer here so it doesn't chew my ear off. Alright, fucker, come here. There we go, got him. So we'll go grab this token. We'll go bring the little tykes back to their daddy or whatever, whoever owns them. And then we'll leave the stage, because I think that's pretty much it. This is a level you can do everything in one go on, which is how I prefer it. There is some Spyro 2-esque backtracking in this game, but, you know, not... Pretty much, since we could skip that RC one, we only have one other instance where that's a thing. And by the way, lovely poppin', huh?
Thanks for finding my little tax, Buzz. Here's a Pizza Planet token.
And that should be it, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so... Yeah, N64 version, no Red Book audio, but a pretty high quality soundtrack for N64. They managed to remake it with the N64 sound font fairly well. I grew up with this version of the game, I must say.
You got all the tokens.
I did grow up with this version of Toy Story 2, so that does sway my judgment a little, but, you know, once I started listening to the Red Book audio soundtrack, boy, there was no way I was gonna go back to the N64 renditions. But, you know, I did come back recently, you know, just playing this game, around it. You know, I didn't practice the whole thing, but I did play a little bit of it, and surprisingly, it did turn out fairly well on the N64, so I gotta give it credit for that much. I think the sound effects are much better than the PlayStation version. It's like with the PlayStation version, they couldn't get the rights to Tim Allen's voice, so they had to pitch shift everything. It's really weird. Then the coin sound effect is wrong, and the sound effects for a whole bunch of things are just wrong and different from every other version of the game. I hate the sound effects of the PlayStation version. It's probably the only reason why. That's probably the biggest problem it has, honestly. Anyway, level 5. Woody discovers that there was an old TV show called Woody's Roundup. He also discovers that he's the missing part of a valuable toy collection that Al wants to sell to a toy museum in Japan. Woody tries to escape from the penthouse, but to no avail. Where's Buzz Lightyear when you need him? If this were the PlayStation version, we'd instead be watching a cutscene of, you know, Bullseye ambushing Woody in the apartment with no other context or plot whatsoever. So, slideshow's better. It's pretty much a fact in my opinion. Regardless, we're gonna go this way first, I think. This level, unfortunately, we cannot complete just yet. I mean, I just realized it should be at the end of the part, so we're gonna stop for now. Join me in part 3 next week, and we will complete the stage. Until then, I'm Exo, and I'll see you guys next time.